Last Sunday, the 24th of April 2011, I spent the entire day with David Icke, a person of whom you may well have heard. And it was a most fascinating experience. I have one or two of his books and I watched quite a few of his videos, but to get the whole thing rolling over you in a 9-hour lecture, it really gives the whole picture. Now, some of you may remember David from 20 years ago when he was almost literally crucified on the Wogan show. However, do bear in mind that David had at that time been through a number of completely mind-blowing experiences, and he just had not got it together. And as you know yourself, when you go through very dramatic experiences, the best way to integrate them is to talk to other people about them, and that's all he did. But because he was already a television personality, he got to talk to people about it on television, and almost nobody understood what he was talking about because he himself couldn't really bring it over then. So forget that and look at what David is now. On top of which, I can personally confirm everything he said. I mean, not only is there David's own evidence there, I have independent evidence from a number of other sources which confirm pretty well everything he says. And there's nothing in what he says, nothing in what he portrays, which is inconsistent with any evidence which I possess. The whole thing makes sense. It makes sense of the whole world. Why is the world how it is, like it is? It all adds up. Now, one thing David did say on last Sunday, which I wasn't aware of, perhaps I should have been, but I wasn't until he said this, is the pineal gland. This is actually at the base of the brain. It's sandwiched between the, shall I say, where the spinal cord comes up into the brain, and then the little cerebellum hangs at the back of the brain here, just in front of the cerebellum, is the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland, according to David, is the gland which is responsible for letting us access high-frequency knowledge. Now, the reason I should have been aware of this is because in most of the Oriental traditions, the pineal gland sits below what is called the spiritual inlet point, which is here, at the back of the crown. And what David pointed out is that fluorides, or the fluorine which is put into drinking water in large parts of North America and a few other places as well, completely blocks the function of the pineal gland, and people don't seem to be able to get themselves moving. They perceive a problem, but it doesn't register that in order to solve this problem, they've actually got to do something. And this is actually why, as fluorine began to be used in the 1940s and 50s, it was actually first used in Soviet gulags in Siberia on Stalin's orders, because it made the prisoners so docile that they never even thought about planning to escape. And that's what it's for. It's about Prison Planet. It's about making the whole of North America docile prisoners. I then went on to dig a little further into this to find out what other substances will affect the proper function of the pineal gland. LSD, lysergic acid, will also take the pineal gland out of function, out of phase with its normal function. To some extent, marijuana will do the same, which is why people who take a lot of marijuana are very, shall we say, laid back, just don't seem to be able to grasp that it's useful to do something creative with your life. The drive is missing. It then went on, or I did at any rate, to look at, well, what is actually arriving at the pineal gland? Because in the human circulatory system, there is devices built into it which stop normal blood reaching the brain, because the brain is such a sensitive organ. And so what actually gets through this filter is very little more than just the informational part of whatever is in the blood. So here we're not talking about removing large quantities of fluoride scale from the inside of the pituitary gland. We're looking at removing the fluoride information. We're looking at removing the LSD information. We're looking at removing the marijuana information. It would not surprise me to discover that other things also affect the proper function of the pineal gland. Oh, something which I did discover on Monday, yesterday, is that pig meat will also drastically reduce the function of the pituitary gland. This is interesting because it then demonstrates why in so many spiritual teachings the eating of pig meat is forbidden. Because it blocks your access to spiritual knowledge, to higher levels of knowledge. You can't think properly the way a human should be able to think. So all this stuff gets stuck in there, and it's almost all of it purely informational structures. It's not chemically there, just enough to stop the pineal gland functioning properly. And it could well have been there for several generations. I mean, if, for example, your parents ate a lot of pig meat, then your pineal gland is going to be quite severely, shall we say, polluted with pig meat information. If you're a second generation fluoride, then the reduced intelligence of your parents will express itself in your pineal gland. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to remove all of this junk information and put the pineal gland back into its proper function. Now, this does happen fast. I mean, really fast. The first test that I did, the person I was giving it to, a marijuana addict, within 10 seconds, suddenly they could feel themselves and began to feel that they are a powerful being who can change the world. That's how fast it can be. So don't be surprised if, when you view this transmission, you get a very, very rapid response and your self-perception changes very, very rapidly. Okay, so this is the end of the introduction. Then we go right straight into the zapping your pineal. Namaste.